As a tulip farmer in the 19th century, you'll build windmills, plant tulips, hire workers, and try to outperform your competition in Windmill Valley. Thank you for joining us at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. Windmill Valley is an action selection game for 1 to 4 players that takes about 90 minutes to play. It's designed by Danny Garcia and published by Board and Dice. They sent us this copy to review.
So we'll give a quick overview of the game and then share our thoughts. Please take a moment to like the video. It really helps our channel.
We're going to divide this video into a few different categories. Before we do that, we'll give you a quick overview of the game.
Players take turns until the end of the game is triggered. Each turn has 4 steps. First, optionally change the speed of the water, then adjust the water level if necessary. Third, you rotate your action wheel a number of steps equal to the water speed. Then you perform the actions at the top of the action wheel.
Your actions are things like building windmills on the board, going to the market to gain tulip bulbs, and planting tulips on your board. You can also buy upgrades for your action wheels, hire helpers to give you bonuses, and ship tulip bulbs for rewards.
So you'll continue taking turns and spinning that wheel for actions, and as it gets back to its start position, you'll advance at the top of the board. And once you've advanced 4 times, basically gone around your wheel 4 times, then that triggers the end of the game, and you'll do some final scoring. You'll get points for the rows and columns of your tulips. You'll get points for having windmills empty and scoring for tulips that you have on your board. And then you'll also get points for contracts that you've collected throughout the game. And whoever has the most points wins.
So like we said at the beginning, we're going to divide today's video review part into a few different categories. And they happen to all start with the letter C. Some of them are a little bit more forced than others.
Alliteration.
But the first one, we're going to talk about components, then comparisons with other Board and Dice games. Then we're going to do a little critiquing, and then we're going to do our...
Commendations.
Commendations was probably the stretch.
The things we like about the game.
We like about the game. All right, so components. The Board and Dice usually does really well with components in their games, and I like the components that are in Windmill Valley, specifically the windmills. The windmills are really cool. They have the screen printing on them, all the different colors. I think the colors work well for the game. The other thing that I think really stands out in the game, for component-wise, is the sort of the action selection board, the windmill.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about at first. You were talking about the windmill tokens.
Oh yeah, I like tokens.
And now we're talking about the windmill action selection
so
board.
all about windmills. I mean, yes.
Windmill Valley.
Windmill Valley. So I like this. One wheel's bigger than the other, which will impact the gameplay. So component-wise, I think it works all really well. And the tulips are cardboard, so... One critique, I know this is not part of the critique part, but I think I would like upgraded tulips.
Oh, wooden tulips would have been nice, especially picking them up.
Yeah.
But it would have also made the game more expensive,
Sure.
And Board and Dice is usually pretty good with their price points.
Yeah, and the component-wise as well, this is all inlaid, so you can put more upgraded actions on your windmill board here with the wheels, and then this is all dual layered as well. So, all right, so that's components. Do you have any other thoughts on components?
Nope. But I would say, back to the tulips, they are pretty thick cardboard.
Yes.
So, in my mind, I was thinking that they were wooden, but they're not. They're cardboard, but they're thick.
Yeah, but I gotta
have some.
Yeah, a little bit on the components section, what I like and didn't like. All right, so comparisons. Board and Dice has, they're into the Euro strategy type games.
The T series.
You have the T series. A lot of them are pretty involved. Where would you put this between the other ones?
Windmill Valley, I would probably put it below Barcelona.
This is not like likes or dislike. This is just comparison to other games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so make sure people know we're not like saying below. We don't.
Oh,
Like
this is just weight.
Yeah, this is just weight.
You're asking about the complexity level right now.
Just making sure you understand.
Okay. Complexity-wise, I would say it's less complex than Barcelona and all of the T games.
Yeah.
Maybe similar to or a little bit more complex than Books of Time.
Sure.
What are your thoughts? Any?
Yeah, I would actually, like, on their, in their Board Game Geek page, they say this is a lightweight game. I would say, maybe compared to their other games, yes.
I would put it in the medium category.
I literally would say, like, there's a lot of games out there. I'm like, oh, this is, like, almost medium, or a little bit more than medium. Like, I don't know. I like say this is, like, to me, like, straight medium. Like, this is a medium level game. It's got a lot of things going on in the game, but everything makes sense with what you're doing. Comparison wise, there's not a lot of, like, other things going on in the game that you have to sort of keep track of. Like, you literally just have the different actions and what am I doing in order to accomplish what I need to do.
Now, there is a fair amount of comboing in the game.
I agree.
So that probably bumps it maybe into the medium category as opposed to the lightweight category, because you do have to keep track of the bonuses that you're getting.
Yeah.
But they do seem like they all make sense, and some of them are like, I have to get the tulips before I can plant the tulips.
Yeah. There is a new game that they're coming out called Reef Project that they're sort of debuting at Gen Con this year, 2024, depending on when you're watching this. And they say that is maybe a little lighter than this game.
We have not played Reef Project yet to give it a comparison. Now, since we're still talking comparisons, I have heard you compare it to Barcelona. It's by the same designer. And Barcelona, I'd have to look back, but I think it was my top game of the year. It was in the top tier of last year for me. I don't remember where it fell for
high.
you.
Yeah, I think it might have been number one.
So what was your thoughts about Windmill Valley compared to Barcelona?
Ooh, I like this more. Yes, I like this more, but we haven't really gotten to our likes and dislikes and conclusions.
But this is
we forgot about our other
comparisons.
C's, yes.
Oh.
Our conclusions.
Yes, but that's at the very end.
Yeah, I would like this, comparison-wise, like this more than Barcelona, personally. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still undecided. I like both games. Should we move on?
Let's go to our critiques. All right. I was telling Melissa, like, I try to be really, like, objective and subjective in, like, what don't I like about games and what do I like about games? I was like, I'm not sure what I don't like about this. Now, you had one. I was like, yes, that is probably one. And I have another one that I thought of. So why don't you...
So one of the mechanisms in the game is there is the speed of the water, and it's something that you optionally do at the beginning of your turn before all the other stuff. And basically the water speed determines how many rotations you will make on your action board. So if the speed is at 3, you're going to turn it 3 spaces.
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
And there's some other stuff you can do to adjust that. But in some games that we've played, people weren't adjusting that speed very often. And then in other games, it was being adjusted very quickly. So the pace of the game can be determined by how much people are adjusting that water speed level. And sometimes it's an integral part of the game. And then other times, everyone's just taking it really slow. So... It kind of really depends on your group and their play style, how strategic people are going to be with that element of the game.
The other, so actually, I have 2 more critiques. These are like super minor critiques when I'm thinking about the game. These cards are sort of your starting player power cards, and that you're going to be able to use during the game because they sort of have ongoing benefits, and usually so they all sort of connect to different actions that you're taking, whether you are building windmills or planting the tulips or getting contracts or getting upgrades or things, all the different ones. So they all have a special power for that thing. So one critique is, I don't know, like some of them are like a little bit more, number one, intuitive to how to play them. And then I think some of them might just be a little bit more powerful. Like, I've seen all of them played.
Like some of them feel like you'd be able to use them more often or wouldn't direct your game quite as much. Like some of them you really have to play into that strength to get the benefit.
Yes. And like it sort of leads into my next small critique. When you are playing the game, you're getting the player, what are those cards at the top of the boards called?
They're your helpers that you're hiring.
So you're hiring helpers. Thank you. You're hiring helpers. I really like this part of the game. But sometimes you are able to get helpers that sort of help each other.
Kevin had an awesome combination in one of our games.
And it connected to my player power. So, which was amazing. And I felt like a lot of other people were like looking at me and be like, wow, like why can't
Kevin doing so much?
How can you like they were doing their turns and they're like, why can't I do all the things that Kevin is doing? Well, I was able to find the cards that worked like almost perfectly with my special power that sort of helped me combo a lot during the game and gave me major points.
Yeah, Kevin was definitely able to chain those. So he would take a main action that would trigger one of his helpers that kind of gave him another benefit, and then that benefit would trigger a different helper, which would trigger a benefit. Now, each helper you can only activate once per turn.
Correct.
So that is a very important distinction and limit. You can't completely spam them multiple times.
Right, but every turn, if you're doing that, that's amazing. And sometimes I remember in your game, you're not being able to activate all of them.
Right,
so,
like I'm only activating one helper during the turn. It's not doing that chain, but maybe I'm activating things doing other things.
Sure. So that's a small critique in that, man, if you can get amazing cards that really help your game out, it's a small critique because all the cards are cool and enjoyable to work out. It's just like, boy.
Sometimes you hit those magic combinations. Yeah, let's go to
our commendations.
Commendations. So the things that we really enjoy in Windmill Valley, and we've already hinted at that this might be one of our top 10 games of the year as middle of the year.
Yeah.
So there's more games to come out, but so far we have really enjoyed this one. Why don't you start?
Sure. So actually one of my number one things I like about Windmill Valley is that there's not just one way to win. There are all these different actions. There's the enhancing your wheel, building windmills, visiting the market, upgrading your farm, planting bulbs, all these things going on in the game. You can you can focus on one of them in one game, like building windmills, but in another game, like focus on another part of the game. Now, you're not going to do that to the not build windmills. You're going to still build them. It's just like you might not focus on that as much in another game, and I like that.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen people do really well with different strategies. So someone really did a lot with the windmills and did well.
Did you do one with contracts one game? You were able to get contracts that helped you get a lot of points.
Or you can go really heavy in some of the contracts, or there's a goal for everybody that you can get points if you're going in that direction. Yeah. So I don't think there is one strategy like you have to do this. Although the rare tulip bulbs, the black or really dark purple, I didn't do any of those in one game, and I think that did hurt me.
They're pretty powerful. I mean,
they score a lot of points.
Score lots of points.
They're worth a lot of points.
Yeah. I like the flexibility in having tools so that you can use tools in the game to help you increase your wheel movement, or actually decrease it if you really want to. Like, you're getting points from increasing the water level, but then you're like, but I only want to move 2 of my wheel. Getting points, but then also using those tools. So the flexibility in that, and there's a lot of other things that are flexible in the game, but that one part is kind of interesting.
So I like variability in games, and this one has each windmill board is distinct. The combination is going to be different of where the actions are. So there's a little bit of asymmetry there. Also, you are getting that power card at the beginning of the game. that may kind of direct your strategy a little bit. Yeah. The common goal is going to be different in most games because it's based on whatever card isn't drafted during the beginning. So I feel like there is a lot of variability in the game with the specific setup for that game and how the cards come out and how the upgrades come out.
We didn't. There's maybe a small, not critique, but maybe it is.
So maybe slightly jumping back.
About the water levels and how that affects gameplay.
As in, I mean, I did mention them in the critique, but are you talking about like the end of the game and game flow?
Yeah.
So, okay, backing up to the critiques a little bit and elaborating more.
But it actually could be a little bit, people like this part of the game.
So the game length is determined basically by how quickly you go through your action wheel. And that is determined by the water levels. So you can have a game where people are playing very slow, not doing much movement on the water wheel, and then you'll get a lot done in that game. Like, oh, I almost have all of my tulips planted, and I have a ton of stuff out. But basically, everyone has to be on that strategy. Because if one person is speeding through their wheel and going up the advancement track, the game will end when they get to the first.
Right, and
to the fourth.
Everyone's game's ending.
Yes, so you have to be aware of player speed and where people are in the game. Yeah. So kind of like Everdell, where people can be in different seasons. In this one, I could still be on my first rotation and someone's midway through their second rotation, moving up the track. So there is a little bit of the timing of things that ebbs and flows.
I'm okay with it. Some people could be like, oh, I wish that person wasn't going as fast because I want to do more stuff or something.
Right. So group dynamic can play into that aspect of it's not, oh, you're going to play 5 rounds and you're going to have 15 turns in the game. It's not that sort of game. The length is going to be determined by players and their choices.
Another thing I commend about Windmill Valley is that you're always getting things. Like, even if your turn isn't that amazing, you're still, it's easy to get things, and it feels like, oh, I'm getting all this stuff to be able to do even better things later in the game. And even on the player board, as you're putting tulips on, like, you're either getting different benefits or getting upgrades or getting special powers,
actions.
It's special actions, but it's also giving you points. So like that's amazing. Like I like that in games.
It feels good to do things.
I don't like punishing games. I don't feel like Windmill Valley is a punishing game.
There's been 1 or 2 turns where I haven't used my money well. And
did you feel like you got behind?
A little bit. You can get yourself in a corner where, oh, it costs money to do this, this, and this, and I have no money, so I have to spend some turns to get money. So I wouldn't say it's punishing, but you do have to be aware of your finances and make sure you don't put yourself into a hole. You'll never be in a spot where you can't do anything because you almost always have the option to lower the water level and get some money that can then help you in the future.
But doesn't it feel good sometimes to be like, all I did on my turn was lower the water level?
Right, I got 2 coins and Kevin did 18 things. But that was a gameplay, I think, mistake on my part. I just wasn't forward thinking enough to make sure that I had planned out what I needed.
You mentioned the sort of the way that the game ends is you're going up the different tracks. I forget what it's called at the top corner of the board. Basically, you're moving to the next level of the game,
and you get benefits.
Yes,
when you do
that's what I was going to say. I like that about the game because if you are going a little quicker than others, you're getting everyone will get a benefit. There is a benefit for each round, but if you're the first one to cross that line, then you're getting the best, an additional benefit that can be like 5 coins or something. Or
sometimes I was last, so I wasn't getting a benefit at all in the higher player count games.
You're getting a benefit, but not an extra benefit.
Yes.
Right?
I was getting the base benefit, but not an additional benefit.
Right, because usually you're getting, if you can get you usually get 2 benefits. So, whew.
Yeah.
Windmill Valley. Before we get to our conclusion, anything else before we conclude?
Commendations. I like the theme.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the theme a little bit. Sure.
The windmills and the tulips,
Yeah.
and it's just a kind of relaxing, fun theme to me. We were supposed to go to Amsterdam and the Netherlands, but we had to put off our trip. So now we're looking forward to it next year instead of this year.
It was kind of interesting. We were playing this game and about to go on the trip, and like, oh man, it's like coinciding.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll hopefully go next year and enjoy that. So yeah, I also enjoy the theme. I don't really know of any other games like this theme, but I'm sure
the windmill and the tulips.
The tulips with the windmills. I mean, there's other windmill games, but I enjoy how that all fits together. I think it's like, I like the gameplay, but I also think the theming works with the gameplay. They're not like 2 separate things. They worked like together.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And I think that's why it makes sense. It's like, oh, well, I have to get the tulips before I plant the tulips.
I go to the market to get the tulips.
And now there's other ways of doing all that kind of stuff, but those all like...
Yes. Well, a commendation that could have gone into the components, I guess, is there is a player aid for each person that talks about the actions and the turn structure. So I always enjoy when games have something that each player can have to remind themselves of the important things or to look at during the game explanation for people like me who really like to read the rules and not just hear them.
All right, conclusions. So, number 1, I think we both like this game. So even with those critiques that we had, we're just trying to we want to be as objective as possible to help you understand the good and the bad in all the games that we share with you.
And obviously they're all our opinions based on our particular likes in games.
Right. So I think you'll like this game if you enjoy like action selection type games that are thinky, but I wouldn't say this is like brain burny thinky. It's like makes sense thinky. I want to accomplish this. I need to do these actions. Can I get other things that will enhance those actions in order for me to do well in the game? So that's what I think on that side. I have a couple other things.
Yes, I tend to like medium weight or medium heavy weight games, and I feel like this fits into that category. About an hour and a half, so not super long. It's not going to be 3 hours that you're slogging through something, although there are 3-hour games that I like, but it's kind of that nice midway point Kevin was talking about. It has some strategy, it has some thinkiness to it, but not so much so that you're going to burn your brain out. So I already like those types of games, and this fits into that category. I like a lot of the games that Board and Dice puts out. I think that they put out quality products, and I felt like the components for this were very good.
Yeah, I played this a number of times now, and I appreciate that this is a type of game where Melissa doesn't take too long on her turns.
Okay, yes, I can sometimes be prone to a little bit of AP, analysis paralysis.
Right, but I don't think in this game, I'm sure it happened once in a while, and sometimes when you're trying to take a bigger turn, it happens, but normally you and I and other players are like, I know I want to turn it, do I want to turn it 1, 2, or 3, spaces, and then, what are those things, and then I'm just basically making my best play out of that, and I think that's in conclusion, I appreciate that in the game.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to be better about it. There are some turns that are going to have a lot of benefits and combos, so those can sometimes take a little bit longer as you're thinking through, I get to do this, which gives me this, which gives me this, which gives me this, but I need to do the third one first, because you can kind of do them in the order that makes the best sense for you. So sometimes there's a little bit of calculating and making sure that you don't forget to take your benefits. I kind of wish there was something, I might need a notebook to be like, or a token that I put down, like, I need to take this. I don't want to do it first, but I need to not forget it before my turn's over.
Little bookkeeping, I got you. And in conclusion, I would highly recommend this game. I think you should buy it if you've enjoyed the things that we've talked about in the game for the gameplay. If you don't like anything that we said, then this game's not for you. But in conclusion, if you like games that we've been talking about, like this one, then sure, like, get it.
Yeah, and I would say, I'm trying to think, like, player interaction, there isn't any take that negative interaction in the game.
No, but
now maybe someone could get a card that you were hoping for.
Or a place on the board. So maybe if you want to say that's
board placement.
Board placement could be like, I was really planning and that would really help my game. I think that happened to a couple players.
But usually people, it's not the type of thing where you're doing it to spite the other player. It's helpful for you. It just happens to hinder someone else.
And there's so many places on the board to go, so it's not like...
So there's some interaction in the game, but not a high level, and it's not a I am doing things to hurt you type of interaction, which I usually prefer less interaction. So that also hits a good spot for me.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get a chance to play Windmill Valley, we would love for you to let us know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Thanks for watching.